Hello, and welcome to another episode of Between Two Pints. I'm your host, Rob, and with me today is Raquel, one of the co-adult people in charge of ReBoot Rewind.
Yes. Co-creator, co-director, co-producer. Lots
And
of codes.
and ReBoot Rewind, if the audience doesn't know what I'm talking about, is actually a documentary on a computer animated series that was produced in Vancouver in the 90s, which is amazing. I know, like, I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, but it is awesome, and I grew up watching it, and I'm really excited to have you and Jacob in next episode on.
Yeah. So ReBoot Rewind is a 8-part docu-series. So check it out.
Is it? And now, if people are watching this, where would they be able to watch it?
So if they really want to go online and watch it right now, it's on the TELUS Story Hive YouTube channel. So that's all around the world. You can watch it. Or it's the TELUS Optic TV network on, I guess, cable or
Yeah.
streaming platforms. But yes.
Excellent. And now, before we go on any further, let's just get some root beer poured.
Okay.
I'll do this
I'm
because
gonna trust you.
Yeah. I'll do the opening. If you want to pour your own there, that'll be great. Just because we had another person on who took a little while to open it.
See? Hooray. Now you can't even open your own.
Yeah, I know. I'm super embarrassed now. All right. And I was asking, I'm going to wait till I'm done pouring. I don't need any accidents. So I was talking to you beforehand. And so besides being the host, co-producer, co-everything, what else do you do?
Well, by day, I work as the studio operations director for Innersoft. So the folks who made the game Among Us, you know,
Wow.
stuff and things about murdering little beings in outer space. Spare time, I'm a cosplayer, but just all around geek. So I do pretty much everything except for play Dungeons and Dragons, unfortunately.
Disappointed.
I know. I have too many hobbies.
I run beginner games. We could always line something up.
When I'm not making a documentary or doing anything else crazy with my life, I'll let you know.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Now, cosplaying. Yeah, cheers. So cosplaying, what's your favorite cosplay, or what's your favorite character to cosplay as?
Okay, well, this is always a hard one because it's a toss-up. But my original first ever cosplay ever was Dot Matrix.
Oh, gee, I'm pretty sure that's from the show ReBoot.
Yes.
So.
So that's how I actually got into cosplay. And I loved it so much because she was someone that I really looked up to as a kid. So cosplay is fun. You get to be whoever you want to be. You get to embody your favorite character or villain, whatever. But I also love how people take to these characters. So, running around as Dot Matrix, there was a lot of people that were really excited that Dot Matrix was in the building. So that's always one of the best parts of cosplay is just like seeing people's reactions, right? So Reboot's a huge one because people, it's like this blast from their past. It's like the Ratatouille moment with the with the food critic, right? Like it's just this insane jolt of nostalgia, and people are just like, like my childhood, right? And then maybe you find a new best friend that day, so it's really easy to connect with people. But the other one that I've been doing the past couple years is Ahsoka from Star Wars.
Oh.
And same thing, like people just, they can't help but come up to me and like tell me why it's their favorite character and why that character resonates with them. So it's really hard to choose, honestly, but yeah, that's kind of, I would say Dot's my favorite just because she was my first. Yeah.
So I guess you must have some really good tips on painting yourself green.
I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah. I mean, I learned from the best. I learned from a drag queen.
Okay.
And she is also a professional in the movie and film industry. So it just, from years and years and years of, learning YouTube videos, tips from this queen, and just makeup technology changing. Like that's the whole thing too. But yeah, I have a lot of tips on how to just paint your skin another color. Because Ahsoka is orange. So
anything easy to mention right now in case I decide I need to be blue tomorrow? I know I'm catching you
Uh,
off guard. Yeah. Not where you would expect this interview to go.
don't buy Halloween makeup.
Ooh,
Yeah.
explain.
Okay, because most of the time it can be cheap
Mhm.
and it might not do your skin any favors.
Okay.
Yeah, so find yourself like a good, what's the word? Like an actual, like, makeup effects shop. We have a few in Vancouver for sure, and yeah, just lean into experts, like, lean into other people if you need the support, because that's how I did it. That was the only way.
How long have you been cosplaying for?
Since 2009,
That's a long time.
a long time, yeah. So, I'm not gonna do that math. It's a long
You
time.
must have been incredibly young when you started. No, you're not supposed to say it. Oh, you're supposed to say,
No.
"Yes, I was."
Yeah, I mean, in comparison to now, sure. But in my brain, I'm still 8 years old,
Of course.
so that's fine.
That's about how mature I am, so
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Reboot Rewind.
Yes.
How did that get started? I'm sure Jacob can also fill anything you forget to mention, but,
Yes.
like, how did that happen to you? What was your perspective on this?
Okay, so during the pandemic, as we all did, we reminisced about things that we loved. I think a lot of us did that. And I think it was, coming out of one of the lockdowns, I remember just sort of trying to tap into the things that made me happy. So I used to have I had a coach once that would say, when you're upset or you're not feeling good about yourself, what's going to take you back to zero? What's going to bring you back down to zero? If you're, anxious and at a 10, how do you bring yourself back down to zero? And there are a few things in life that I enjoy that will always bring me back down to zero. One of them is Reboot. That was always one of the things that just always made me happy, brings me joy for many reasons. I could go on. But yeah, so I was sort of doing a rewatch like near the end of one of the lockdowns, and I don't know, it was like, Reboot was approaching its 30th anniversary. And I think as an adult, or the show came out when I was 8. So as I grew up, you start to see it from a different light, right? Like when you're a kid, you like the colors, it's fun, new atmospheres, whatever. Go into teenager, and then as you become older, you start to appreciate more like different things, like the writing or whatever things that are just timeless. And
Or the horrible implication of what's happening in your computer every time you play all of those video games and
yeah,
win.
yeah, you're like, oh, I'm just like nuking my computer basically. So yeah, there was things like that that I just really learned to love as an adult. And Jacob and I have been good friends for a really long time. We met, I don't even know what year it was. I can't even. No, we knew each other before that. That's when we met in
Yeah.
person.
So
Okay.
just to explain to people watching, yeah, I'm super lazy and wanted 2 episodes out of these guys, so Jacob is just sitting off camera.
Oh, he's just like the guy in my head, like behind me.
Who's the guy on the Joe Rogan show where they got like, Jesse, get that up on the monitor."
Yeah, so Jacob and I met online way before this, but in 2009 when I cosplayed Dot for the first time, that's how I met Jacob in person. And because he was local, it just was easy to keep in touch and like, see him at other conventions in the years, coming and all that kind of stuff. So, knowing that Jacob was working in film and just sort of, coming up to the end of that pandemic, really reminiscing about everything and I just messaged him and I was like, you know, people aren't getting any younger. Do you want to do this thing? Or we should, do something like maybe it's just interview Gavin, who's one of the co-creators, or like it kind of sort of this like tiny idea and then just exploded.
And did you guys apply for a Story Hive or something?
We did, yeah. So, Telus Story Hive has these grants, and yeah, it just kind of, like I said, snowballed into this thing. And knowing that we could apply for this grant, we took the chance, and we had to beat out people to get this money. So I guess our pitch was good.
It's also very iconically Vancouver. Like, if
It
you know
is.
anything about it, it's like it's something we should be a lot more proud of than we like. The ones who know about it are, but like it was
Yeah.
a big deal, and it was because it wasn't just Reboot. It was like Beast Wars and Beast
Beast Wars,
Machines,
yeah. Mhm.
which like I grew up also loving as like some of the best Transformers of that decade.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. There's a lot of people who know Reboot, they don't know it was made here. Or there's some people that like have like yeah, have heard about like some of it but not the whole story or yeah, so it's really interesting, but when we were applying, we were told that there was a good chance we probably wouldn't win. We wouldn't win the grant. But then we did. And then I don't know, things just exploded and it turned into an 8 episode thing that originally we were like maybe we could do like a feature length, and then it was like, maybe, "Oh, we gotta do episodes now. Okay, maybe okay, well, the minimum is 6, at this amount of minutes," and then it turned into 8. It just kept going. So, yeah.
How long from, like how long before the Tell a Story Hive thing were you thinking you'd wanna do something? Like, did the because I've like, when you were told that, like, you wouldn't get yeah, I've applied for, like, 10 story hives and, like, never gotten them.
Oh,
And,
okay.
like, I've done a decent job like, some of them we really put a lot of effort into and, the pitch videos were good, and I've been working in corporate video and film for quite a while. Like, I'm aware that our pitches were at least, like, the audio was good.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But, like, yeah, had you guys thought about doing it before? Or was it sort of like the Story Hive was
We thought about doing it for, like, even before Story Hive. Story Hive just kinda gave us the lift of like, "Oh, we can actually do this. Oh, okay, now it's turning into this," right? Like, I think regardless, we would have done something just because we're too ambitious in a good and a bad way. But yeah, it was, I think it was, like, maybe a few months or so? I can't remember, but it was definitely, like, I wanna say, like, 3 to 6 months that we were just like, "No, we're gonna do this. We just don't know how yet."
So how
Yeah.
long was the overall journey? Because I know that was
Probably
there
yeah, it was about 2 years, I think. Yeah.
and I know I kinda wanna let you tell it, but, like, there was, like, a big hurdle, but you guys also had a pretty big victory with, like, the master tapes. You wanna get into that, or
Yeah.
is that something Jacob should talk about?
Oh, Jacob would talk more about it, but, I mean, I can give my perspective. So where should I even begin? I mean, basically, there was a rumor that these tapes didn't exist and that they were gone, and the master tapes are basically, like, the original transfers of the show, on this insanely old digital tape. And yeah, there were various rumors that had sort of spread throughout, I want to say maybe a decade that these tapes just were gone, maybe thrown in a garbage or whatever. Like there was all these rumors that it was like purged out of the company. And we got into mainframe and they were happy to show us where they were. And I mean, it wasn't hard. We just asked really nicely.
But you were doing a documentary on them, so they're
Yeah.
probably pretty
There
stoked to
was a
have it.
business proposal, of course, but, yeah, it was all the rumors, even the rumors of the rumors were hilarious, like, there was all these people thinking that we found them in some cave,
You should just
like
lean into those
yeah,
rumors.
totally. It was like
This scar
yeah,
right here, yeah, don't wanna talk about that. Master
totally.
tapes, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, like, it was just wild, but it was I think, just we f we didn't find them, they just showed them to us, but the fact that we confirmed that they existed was a very big deal because people thought that they didn't exist. Um, so yeah, it just exploded, and we realized that Mainframe didn't have the, technology to play these tapes.
Surely that must be super easy to come by. You can get that at, like, Best Buy, right?
Totally, it's just like a VCR that someone has in their basement. So that was a whole 'nother hurdle. We got on the news and it just went viral, like, people were contacting us from all around the world, Japan, New Zealand, Germany, which is where we ended up getting the decks from in the end, but yeah, it was like it just felt like this worldwide effort to save and preserve this show. So you had people that loved the show that were around the world. You had media preservation enthusiasts that just were all about it. And yeah, it was like this really wild movement that took up my entire winter break of last year.
I remember seeing you guys, like, looking for the tapes, and I was like,
Yeah.
"That's not a very good master tape technology if it's this hard to find a thing."
I mean, it was supposed to be like the Ferrari of tape decks in back in the day. And as you know, technology just fades, you know? And I learned a lot, not only from the technology that they were using, but just even in general. Like, it's not just D1, there's D2s, there's like, and just how people think that at the time, like, people think that technology is timeless, and it really is not. It's so fragile. And once you don't have the ability to play something, then what? It's just gone. So,
Well, even something if, like, you had important information on a floppy disk right now, like the floppy ones, not just the, like
like the little save icon that
yeah,
people like,
yeah. Like, good luck. I'm sure that would be easier to find, but that's still, like, if I had a file on a floppy disk and I needed it in, like, 24 hours, that would
Dude, I don't even know how to read a USB off my Mac these days. Like, it's just like I know, but I just forget sometimes that it's not as readily available. Same thing, like I remember when CD-ROMs were just gone suddenly, and you're like, "The hell do I do with this? What about my Windows 95 or whatever?"
well, I wanna buy Lord of the Rings, the extended edition.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't have a DVD player.
You come to my place. I got all of the editions.
Alright. Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. A woman of culture and
Oh
learning, I
yes.
see.
Yes.
Excellent.
Jacob knows. He knows that there's a giant map of Middle Earth on my wall.
There there
Yeah.
may be a giant One Ring next to Jacob on the couch that's a rolling dish. You wanna throw that over here?
Oh, nice. My precious.
Yeah. I printed that last night. It's great. I'm really excited about it. Apparently you can wire it with a light if you stop the print halfway through.
Okay, okay.
But back to your journey with Reboot Rewind. So now it was what do we call this? A docu-series?
Docu-series, I guess, is the officially unofficial term. Yeah.
How do you go about filming something like that? Can I like broad 40,000 feet view of that like
Um, so this was our first time doing anything of the sort. Jacob works in film, Brandon, our DOP, works in film. Everyone on the project worked in film except for me. I had no idea what I was doing.
but you work in gaming, so it's basically the same thing, right?
I mean, I so I'm a manager at a gaming studio, and I do things like I hire people when we have to hire. I'm trained in how to do interviews. I know how to do them professionally to hire someone and get the best answers out of somebody for a job. So if I'm doing an interview with someone, like I know how to get the best answers out of them.
How have my answers been so far?
They're great because we can banter back and forth. But it's, like I really used those skills coming into that role because that it's like we just all used whatever strengths we had. Um, and also just like networking for many, many, many years. Like Gavin, one of the co-creators, is a really good friend of ours. Um, I think he's like my uncle now. Like I don't know what the official term for him is in my life anymore, but he was able to help help us connect with a lot of people for this project, but then also just people that I've connected with over the years. Like when I cosplayed as Dot, I ended up meeting a lot of the voice talent back at that convention, and I just kept in touch with them over the years because why not? They're awesome people. Did that come in handy when I needed to interview 50 people? It sure did. So, yeah, it was just I think it was a lot of us just leaning into our strengths, and that's why I messaged Jacob to do this project because I was like, we're friends, but let's use our strengths to do this thing, right? And like he had his connections, I had my connections, and we made a good team.
That's really cool. So, for how many months were you like how did you shoot interviews? I've never shot a docu-series
Mm,
either. I've done some mockumentaries, which is totally different because it's kind of
yeah.
scripted. But like would you interview someone and just interview them for like 2 hours or like
Kinda, yeah.
huh.
Yeah, it was like I would say our shortest interview was maybe like an hour and 20, an hour. And then, yeah, some of them were long. Like Gavin's interviews, bless him because he loves to talk and we needed it. So I'm not mad at it, but it was like, some of his interviews were 6 hours long.
You stop for food breaks?
We did, but it was
Wow.
just probably
Yeah.
when we would sit there and be like, "Well, we've gone through another page and I can hear everyone's stomachs growling, so we should probably stop."
And how many people did you end up interviewing? Roughly. Obviously, you will not be held
50-ish.
50. Oh, you met,
Yeah.
50, like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
whoa.
Like, that's not an exaggeration. Yeah.
So,
So, it was everyone. It was like, you know, voice talent, sound people, you know, like animators, co-creators, like so many people involved. It was so awesome.
so there must be like a staggering amount of footage.
Uh, yeah, Jacob had to go through all of it.
Oh, God. Jacob looks pained off camera.
Jacob just died.
Yes. So, have you thought of storing the footage on like these cassette drives?
Definitely not the D ones. We have many, many hard drives, so that's the thing. I remember I paid for all of them with our budget. It'd be like, "Oh, there goes another hard drive. Yep, okay, there we go," you know? But yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot of footage, a lot of hours, and, you know, as you know, someone who works in film, it's not just the interview time, it's getting there, the setup, introducing yourself, like, getting the subject comfortable, pouring them some root beer, like, hanging out, you know, because and that was a big compliment that we got with our interviews was that it was just very casual and people felt really comfortable talking to us, so that's it's same thing, it's like you just want them to feel like they're hanging out.
So, you've already mentioned Gavin and that he's great and we love you, Gavin. But
Mhm.
who was besides him? Obviously, he was, but who was your favorite person to interview?
Oh.
Yes, we're asking you to pick favorites.
Oh my god, I've gotta pick my favorite child. Um,
We know every parent has one.
oh, that's a hard one. I don't even know. Like, I mean, Ian Pearson was a blast because he never does any interviews ever. So he's another co-creator. And often Gavin will always say that he's like the mastermind behind Reboot as a whole. So he was very interesting to talk to just because I think his brain works in a different way, but in a very good way. Like he's just like this genius that I could just listen to him talk and tell stories. And he's very funny, but he doesn't think he is. So it's just like um the sound guys were really fun because they brought out some really old tech for
Oh,
us.
like microphones and stuff?
No, like I don't even know what that thing was called, but yeah,
Oh, zip
like
drives.
yeah, so they
Oh,
brought out, yeah, like, I don't know what it was called, but they basically ran us through how they would create sounds for the show, and it was just this super old technology that they were like, "I don't even know if this is gonna work."
that
Like, they
sounds
were
super fun.
yeah, like, they were shocked that they were able to get it to work, like, the day that we came in for filming, so, um, voice talent, of course, are always really funny, and I would get in so much crap if I didn't mention them. Because
Because,
one
yes.
of them's gonna watch and they're gonna be like, "You didn't mention me."
Didn't mention how great I was.
Yeah, but I love them and they were all so supportive, like, I think that was the thing, like, everyone was just such a family, and it was so evident, like
I think you get that vibe from the show too, and I
yes,
think, like, I've
100%.
heard that both in indie film world and even, like, that it's in bigger sets where, like, even, for example, apparently the Iron Man 1 movie was very much like felt like a student project and, like, people pitching ideas and maybe why it was so popular, but, like, Reboot was like, yeah, that was I always felt like,
Yeah, it was pretty much like, I feel like a lot of people came from elsewhere and they had this like newfound family that they had created and as we went through the documentary and as I rewatched the show over and over and over again for science and for research it was like you could tell that they just had this there was this mirror of like mainframe was the home and like this heart but then the company itself also was eventually named mainframe and it also had that heart and that like family dynamic and it was just the parallels are so easy to see, and I hope they see it. Like, I hope they know what they did, but even to this day, like, they're all such amazing friends. When we had our, cast and crew premiere, it kinda served as, like, a bit of a 30th anniversary, like, reunion for a lot of them, and it was just, like, really beautiful to see, you know? Like, it's like they just all picked up and, like, no time had passed, you know? It
that's
was really special.
that's a really wonderful thing, and I guess as a fan of the show, it's kind of cool that you even got to be sort of like the instigator of like a 30th anniversary thing
Yeah.
and like getting the actual master tapes, and they are slowly being transferred into 4K remasters, or I don't know what you call it, but
Yeah.
like you both of you have really helped like bring a show back, and so like a whole new generation can. I mean, they could have enjoyed the old ones, but now it's going to look gorgeous.
Yeah, it was, it still feels weird, like, I don't ever do anything creative unless I have a calling for it, like, I don't do it to feel proud or to do it for, someone else, it's always just because I feel this calling to do it, and it was the same thing, like, that's why I messaged Jacob that day, just to be like, "I feel like we need to do this because no one else is doing it, and we're the best candidates to do it," right? Um, but looking back on it, I had a lot of people ask me, like, "Are you proud of it?" And I was like, "I didn't even think about it that way." I am, but it felt really weird to do all of this and then almost, like, present that era and that life of the show, like, back to people and back to, like, the people who created it. Like, when we had the cast and crew screening, it was like, "Am I really on stage right now, like, presenting this to you? Like, this is so wild, like, how this has turned out, like, so wild." I still can't believe it even happened, like, at the end of the day, like, I was just a fan of a thing who felt like they needed to do a thing.
And then it turned into an enormous, huge thing,
And it
and
actually turned out
that
good.
like spanned the globe, and yeah.
Yeah, like, I had people watch it, and they were like, "No offense, like, I thought it'd be good, but I didn't think it'd be that good because we didn't know what we were doing." Like, we just tried really hard and I don't know, Like, again, had the right strengths, people of project to make it good. Yeah.
So, you've done this amazing series. You're a manager at a video game place.
Mhm.
What's next?
I don't know, I need to chill out.
That's valid. No,
Yeah.
vacations are great.
Yeah,
Maybe learn how to play D&D.
maybe. I mean, I sat and played, Baldur's Gate, when I got off the project, like, and I sat there and I threw, like, almost 200 hours into Baldur's Gate in, like, a month and a half, like
You know how to play D&D then.
I know.
Except there's like a little less murdering in D&D
Yeah,
because you can do other
I
stuff.
know. So that was a thing, and then I played Dragon Age, like, twice when it came out, so, yeah, I've been chilling. I do love video games, I just haven't been able to play them very often because 'cause I've been so busy, but
I also love video games. In fact, I unfortunately in September decided to stop playing single player games to have more time.
Oh,
Yeah, no, it was like I discovered it was a major coping mechanism, which is hard.
totally, I mean, that's my escapism, 100%, but it's a double-edged sword, like I said, I'll throw, like, 200 hours into something in a very short period of time.
Yeah, no, I do that too. I saw
Yeah.
my like Skyrim hours and was like, yeah, that's
I would
I could have learned piano.
not even gonna talk about Skyrim. I've bought that game twice, and I've never finished it. Like, I've gotten to the almost end, to the point where they're like, "This is the point of no return, are you sure?" And I'm like and then I'm like, "No, there's so much left to do." I just, like, turn and run around. So,
I was lucky, or not lucky. I twisted my ankle as a camera trainee and had to spend like a month laid up. And
okay.
so I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to beat Skyrim. And
Tall
I
order.
did it in the most ridiculous manner where, because you know how in Skyrim you can enchant cloth clothing to be a
Yeah.
wizard?
Yeah.
I was a Khajiit, and then I got a baker's outfit and enchanted it. So I was Magic Chef Cat, and I played through the game with all those epic cutscenes. And you cut to this like goofy cat in like cooking in like a
Khajiit.
floppy chef's hat,
That's
and
amazing.
it was every cutscene made me laugh. But and then I beat it, and it was like that is the only character I've had that's beat this game.
So, the first time I almost beat it, but like I said, I turned around because I panicked. I panicked.
You choked.
I choked, and then the second time, I was making good progress, but because I had bought the, like, ultimate whatever edition, it had all the DLCs in it,
Oh,
and then I came across how you could build a home,
that happened to me. That happened to my second
and then I
character.
never finished it because I just sat there and, like, would build properties. Ugh, it's like The Sims and Skyrim put together. It's a dangerous combo.
Ironically, I'm moving not quite to that extent, but my friends that I play D&D with, we also play video games together. We have gotten Return to Moria.
Ooh,
which is the dwarf game, and
yeah.
they hired John Rhys Davies to come on and narrate the hell out of it.
Nice.
And as soon as you guys leave and I'm done backing up footage, I'm firing that up.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, there's so many games I wanna play.
Okay, well, like let's talk quickly about that. Like, what is a game you've been playing recently besides Baldur's Gate and Dragon Age? Because everybody's been playing
Well,
that.
that's what I've been
And
playing.
then what's on your next to-do list or like?
So my husband and I just finished Silent Hill 2,
Mm,
and I say both of us did it because we refused to play any spooky game by ourselves. And so yeah, Silent Hill 2 we just finished. The other one that I'm really behind on is the Jedi Survivor. Yeah, so I played the other game. I
as a
can't
cosplayer
remember.
who does Ashoka, you like have to play them. It's a
I
lot.
know, and I did hear that that team that worked on those games, and I could be wrong, but I heard that they were previously a lot of them were previous BioWare devs, and my favorite games are all BioWare games, like Mass Effect, Dragon Age. That's I could just play those until the end of time. But I see that in those Star Wars games. Like I can see what people are talking about. So I played the first game, loved it. And then, yeah, I'm just behind, but I definitely need to see where Cal Kestis goes because that guy needs to have his cameo in the real world for one. But number two, I also read there's a book that bridges the two games together, and I read the book in preparation for the game, and then I just was doing the documentary and like never got to playing the game. Um, but yeah, also played, Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda, that took forever. So I'm a huge, like, single player, takes forever kind of gamer, but,
I used to be.
you're still there. I believe in you.
Just need to get my life sorted out.
Yeah.
I can get that. That's my promise. Is I'm like I have a list of like 3 things that once they're in play, I
Yeah.
will allow myself to play. Like my friends bought me Alan Wake, the
Oh,
second
yeah,
game,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and oh man, I love those games.
Yeah, yeah, that's another one that's on the list because I hear it's incredible, but they also brought out the physical copy, so bought the physical copy because I'm old school that way. Have to have the discs for whatever reason.
Physical media. I actually had a guest come on and talk about how important that stuff is, which was really interesting.
Kinda like the D1 mask I don't know. Yeah,
That's excellent. Thank you so much for joining me
of
today.
course.
Well, so I'm sorry. Is there anything you want to promote or talk about? Your Instagram? I mean, this
Gosh.
is all about promoting my guests.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to follow me on Instagram or any media at all, I go as Black Widow on all social platforms, so BLAQUEWIDOWE. So that's where you can find all my cosplay, you can find whatever I'm doing. But of course, if you wanna check out the ReBoot Rewind social media platforms, that I mean, most of the time it's either at ReBoot Rewind or ReBoot Rewind Doc. There all the rebooty stuff is there, so if you're into reboot, that's where it's all gonna be.
I am, and I can't wait.
Have you watched the documentary?
I watched some of it, but then, well, okay, in my fairness, I watched some of it, but I
Yeah.
do a lot of my watching while I'm editing.
Oh,
The thing is, if there's a certain level of quality that I can't because it's like it will distract me and I will get no editing done. And
yes.
unfortunately, your series is too interesting. And so I need to put like actual time aside. I cannot do other things.
Yeah, the first episode I think is one of the best. So if anyone's looking to get hooked or just to check it out, even if you don't know anything about reboot, and, it's the best way to start. I even had my vet check out the documentary because she was just like, "Oh, like, where have you been? What have you been up to?" And she's from Europe, she's never heard of Reboot, but she watched the first episode, she loved it. So, yeah, check it out.
Awesome. Well, yeah, no, we got it. All right. Well, thank you so much. And let's get Jacob in here.
Yeah, of course.
Cheers.
Thank you.